Hi guys. So good evening once again. Today, first of all, before I forget, I'd like you guys to subscribe. If you're watching this video, I checked my analytics and I saw that about 67% of guys are watching my videos but are not subscribers. So I want to encourage you to subscribe. I want to be regularly giving this YouTube posts. I'll be releasing YouTube posts at least 3 times a week, maybe 5 or 7 times. So I encourage you to subscribe. If you're enjoying this content, subscribe so that you can be getting updates every time I release a new video. Thank you so much for your support. And also in the comments, you can tell me what subjects you'd like us to discuss. As you guys know, I'm an author. I have a lot of content on masculinity, on success, on intersexual dynamics, on evolutionary psychology, behavioral psychology, on religion, on history, anthropology, and so on and so forth. So I am a person who has been very interested in intersexual dynamics and in helping men to achieve their best potential or maximize their potential in this world. So if you subscribe, it's going to help me. I want to monetize this channel. I've not yet done so. I have a number of subscribers, of course, thousands of subscribers, but it helps if we get more subscribers. So like the video, share it with your friends, and let's get more suggestions and views and engagements. You can make any comment that you want for improvements, for topics, and so on and so forth. So today we want to discuss about marriage. How did marriage move from a covenant to a contract? You know, people like Rollo Tomasi talk about the post-marriage era. Are we already there? So we are going to look at the fall of marriage and the price that men actually pay in the modern marriage. I think I'll start with what we had before marriage, and then we're going to look at marriage as it was constructed, at least traditionally. Then we're going to look at modern marriage. Then we're going to compare the traditional woman and the modern woman. And then the invisible burden that men actually pay or hold in marriages today, and the pitfalls of modern marriage. And lastly, we are going to look at how men can actually navigate this scenario, the modern marriage landscape. So to begin with, I'm going to refer to a number of items that are there in the first Unplugged book, which is still a Nairobi bestseller. Many guys are reading this book, and I encourage, if you've not read this, if you're a young man or a married man, read this book. It's going to help you in several ways that I can mention at this particular point. Okay, so we're going to look at marriage. How did you move from a covenant to a contract? Traditional marriage was a contract, and even before marriage, what did you have before that? Okay, it's important to remember that marriage is a cultural invention. It's not a biological necessity. Human beings were able to propagate themselves even without marriage. So we want to look at what did we have before marriage, why was marriage introduced, and then we look at modern marriage and how it's impacting on men and what men can do about it. Okay, that's what we are going to look at today. So initially, during the hunter-gatherer days, what we had was tribal pairings and clan-based pairings, okay? And even before the agricultural revolution, people used to live in communities. And you know, they used to move from one point to another. So the acquisition of property was not yet a thing. Possession of land was not yet a thing, and so on. So at that time, what we had was polygamy and male dominance. The strongest men bred the most. They had access to women, and at that particular point, these are the roots of hypergamy. Women basically chose the men who are the strongest, who could give them protection and provision. Okay, and child rearing was largely communal. You did not need to have a guarantee of paternity. You see the way even male lions nowadays operate. When a pride takes over another pride, they kill all the cubs. in that other pride. But once the lionesses go into oesters, so long as the lions are part of that particular pride, they don't really mind the lioness breeding with several of the lions. Okay, so it was in a similar way. It was just child rearing was communal. There was no need to guarantee paternity and so on and so forth. People belonged to the tribes or clans. Okay, then slowly people started introducing rituals and proto-marriages for just to control jealousy, because you could have skirmishes. There were attachments that human beings developed emotional attachments, where jealousy could threaten the peace and the stability of the group. So people started pairing couples to each other to minimize this, and to also enable to create stability for child rearing. Okay, but that was hunter and gatherer days. Then we had the agrarian revolution. Agrarian revolution now brought the concept of permanence in terms of settlements. People are now living in particular places, particularly along rivers and lakes, where they could actually plant crops. And the thing about now owning land became a thing, and that's where now paternity started rearing its ugly head. So men, who basically were the owners of land through physical force, because violence basically was a cornerstone of all civilizations, the strongest men got to acquire resources. So these strongest men also wanted to ensure that they could actually pass on their property to children of their own. Okay, lineage became a real thing. So they came up with the idea of marriage. Okay, not necessarily in terms of polygamy, because not in terms of monogamy, but it was a polygamous marriage. A man could acquire wives just the same way you acquire property, and then these wives could help you to spread your bloodline. Okay, so that was the thing. That is about 4,000, 5,000 years ago in the agrarian society. So first thing is that marriage was introduced to control inheritance and property, and also to ensure paternity. Okay, so when you have this property, you want to ensure that you pass it to your offspring. And then also, as these agrarian societies increased, there were fights between various societies. So marriage was one way of creating alliances, so that if you married from a certain group, then it reduced the hostilities and it brought union. So in a sense, marriage is a pro-social thing. Anything pro-social is something that promotes unity, the society's well-being and so on. Okay, like kindness and so on. So marriage sort of promoted that, because you do not want to harm your own relatives in that particular sense. So families and tribes were able to create alliances through marriages. So at that particular point, virginity was something that was of a premium, because the only way you could guarantee paternity was through virginity. The fathers ensure that their daughters could provide purity. So in the sense of marriage, a man would give his daughter, okay, to another man, but his guarantee to that other man who wanted paternity was ensuring that this daughter that he was giving was a virgin. In exchange, the other man brought resources and property, and that is what we call the bride wealth today. So women provided for fidelity and fertility, and the men provided resources. That was a transaction at that particular point. And later on, then, when people became religious in the sense of institutionalized religion, because we had other forms of religion like feminism, shamanism, and so on. But when you look at institutionalized religion, which is what most people are familiar with, then marriage was codified within the particular religion. Okay, so people had this need for exclusive pair bonding to provide them with paternity, and so they inculcated it into religion. And Christianity explicitly demands female chastity. If you look at Islam actually gives men explicit authority over women. Of course, Christianity also says the man is the head and the woman is the neck, and so on and so forth. So in a sense, men were given authority over women. This had, of course, its benefits, because when you have authority over another person, then you can control their behavior, and they become part of what you can think of as your possession. So you feel responsible for them, because the men were held accountable. But patriarchy actually held men accountable. So before the sexual revolution, which introduced contraceptives, if a woman became pregnant, a man actually took responsibility. But of course, we knew that social order later was changed. So at that time, a traditional marriage, men knew what they were buying. Okay, they were buying loyalty, they were buying fidelity, they were buying fertility, and women also knew what it is that they were providing. Okay, a woman's fidelity or loyalty to a man was actually an honorable thing to that particular man. In the same way, a man's honor also involved taking care of his family, ensuring that his women were protected and they were actually provided for. So everything was clear, okay? And the covenant of forever was put in place. Human beings came up with the idea of you marry a woman and you stay with them forever, because the idea of women having options at that time did not exist. It was not like today, where women have Instagram accounts, they have social media, they can access so many men. There was shame that was imposed on women who were not faithful to their men. They could be punished. Remember the story of stoning the adulterous woman in the Bible. Islamists still actually practice it, where they do what they call honor killings and so on and so forth. So what happened? We had the Industrial Revolution, which freed women from domestic labor. So when women could take so many hours to cook, like 6 hours, now because of microwaves, and you didn't have to go so far to get water in the river, water was supplied through taps, you did require firewood, you probably could use gas and so on and so forth. And there are many things that were used to make cooking much easier. Women had much more time in their hands. So as the men went to their workplaces, to the factories mainly, or industries, the women were left at home feeling idle, and that's where the push for feminism started coming in. So women felt that they were not able to do the things men were doing. Of course, there were other things like being denied the right to own property, to vote, and so on and so forth. But for the most part, most of these women felt, because remember, this thing came from white women. White women felt that they were being treated like dolls. You know, you're being given everything, you're just sitting around, and they wanted also to own property. They wanted also to go to work, and so on and so forth. So what happened is, alongside this, women felt that marriage was an oppression. They now reframed it as a form of oppression, and they demanded equality. The only problem is they were demanding equality while still expecting men to provide for them. Okay? Over time, like now in the Western world, we have what we call the no-fault divorce that was introduced in the US in 1969. And now it's almost global, because nowadays your wife can divorce you because she's not happy. That is a no-fault divorce. Okay? And marriage became a short-term lease. Nowadays, actually, it is a hustle in the West. Many women target these young athletes, NFL athletes, musicians, and so on. You get married, and then you divorce, and you divide property. It's actually a hustle. Now, even here in Kenya, we have some women who have become rich just by getting married, particularly to white men, getting a child and divorcing them, and they have become very wealthy through that. So that is what marriage has now become, the modern marriage. In the West, divorce is now 40 to 50%. So like every 10 couple that marry, between 4 and 5 of them will never live together forever, the way the covenant is supposed to be. Now it's a contract, and that contract is going to be terminated. Within Kenya, divorce has increased 5-fold. since 2015. So it is really high. We don't have the exact statistic, but what we know is that it has really increased, and still in a similar pattern, women still initiate divorce 70% of the time. So the challenge also with this divorce is that alimony and child support, men are supposed to be the involuntary providers, and it's enforceable by law. If you don't provide for your child and for your woman, you can actually be jailed. But at the same time, post-marriage, women are not obligated to do anything that they are actually expected to do during marriage. They don't need to give you sex. They don't have to take care of their children. They don't need to take care of their home. And so women are completely free of any responsibility. But all the burdens that men had during the marriage, they're enforceable by law. They are codified in law. Okay? So we are also going to look at the weaponized incompetence and the emotional bureaucracy that women put on men during marriages in a short while. So we have what we call the protector, provider, entertainer fallacy, okay, where men are made not to feel enough. We even have a program in the church, Catholic and Anglican church, that is called Man Enough. And if you look at the program, the basic idea is that men are being treated as if they're not enough, and they need to go through a program so that they can become enough for women. So the bar is being raised for men, while there is not much demand that is being placed on women. So one of the reasons actually why this book of mine has been a bestseller for now almost 4 years is because my generation is one of the first generations that is dealing with a truly empowered woman, and many men are having difficulty because many men walk into marriage with the traditional expectations of marriage, but when they walk in, they realize they are married to a modern woman. So how is a modern woman different from a traditional woman? We want to look at that. Okay? So as we mentioned earlier, the first thing is traditional women were chaste before marriage. In fact, many of them were virgins, and they were also very young. Okay? Nowadays, most women get married. Actually, the CDC says that by the time many women get married, they have at least 4 to 6 sexual partners. And we are going to look at the impact of that in a short while. But traditionally, you could actually get married to a virgin. Nowadays, virginity is even mocked by women. So that is one thing. The second thing you find is that, and of course, virginity guaranteed paternity. Nowadays, we have statistics actually indicate that 30% of men who go for paternity tests, they fail those particular tests. So there's a lot of cuckoldry going on. Men are sticking to the marriage, but what they used to get is no longer in place. They're getting cuckolded. They're no longer getting virgins, but they're still supposed to play the same roles that they used to play traditionally. So that's the second thing about the traditional and the modern women. The traditional woman used to care for their family. Okay? The woman's satisfaction used to come from raising their family, taking care of them, making sure the kids have their food, the husband has their food, the kids are taken care of. The modern woman cares for her career, okay, and she cares for herself. And that is why many men, when they lose their jobs, you find their wives are filing for divorce. They don't want to take care of their men, and they don't want to take care of the family. The most important thing is herself. So that's very, very different. The person you are marrying is totally opportunistic and does not have loyalty. The only loyalty is to herself. The third thing is the traditional woman was very demure, very feminine. But the modern woman is very loud, very dysfunctional, and very disagreeable. They are willing to fight. They are willing to disagree with you and put up a fight at every step of the way. Okay? They are very, very masculine also. And also they have increased in size. A lot of this, of course, is because of the kind of diet that we have. But in many cases today, you find women have, they've gotten out of shape and they eat to such an extent that they're even larger than men. Okay? The traditional woman was very submissive and supportive. They used to support their men in their mission. The modern woman is competitive. They compete with the men. one of the reasons why we have affirmative action, and one of the reasons why we have what we call gender parity in the workplaces, is because men and women are competing for the same thing. In the past, it was men who are looking for the jobs and providing for their families. But nowadays, women have come to the workplace. They also want money. They also want to own property. They also want influence. They also want power. And because they cannot compete with men, they have to be given affirmative action initiatives to help them, or to give them a leg up so that they can compete with men. In the past, submission was actually expected and socially enforced, okay? And a woman's loyalty was her husband's honor. But nowadays, it is not the same. Women tell each other, you do you. You don't need to be loyal to any man. In fact, there are many women who are ashamed for being loyal to their men and not putting themselves first. There were no social media, there were no options. Women just had, the sexual marketplace value was their small village, and it was limited to that particular area. Nowadays, it is social media. You can even hook up with someone that is several miles and thousands of kilometers away. The traditional woman was also very natural, okay? They did not have cement on their faces, using so much makeup, fake hair, fake nails, and so on. They were very, very natural. So the modern woman is very different. They are doing Brazilian butt lips. In fact, there are people who argue that they compared to the traditional woman, we are looking now at the percentage of artificiality in the modern woman. Okay, they have gone so far. Now we have fake butts, we have bras that accentuate their breasts, they have the eyelashes, there's a makeup that gives you the false skin, the hair, the nails, and so on. So over time, the woman is actually becoming more and more artificial, which is very different from what it is that the men actually are getting married to. Okay, so pair bonding, CDC actually says that, the CDC report of 2017 says that women have 4 to 8 sexual partners before marriage. And this actually undermines the pair bonding ability. I've talked about this one in Unplugged. There's a research that appeared in Journal of Marriage and Family in 2003. This is by Teachman. That research is titled Premarital Sex, Premarital Cohabitation, and the Risk of Subsequent Marital Dissolution Among Women. It actually says that the higher the notch count, the higher the possibility of a woman dissolving her marriage when she's getting married with a high notch count. Okay, so there's also a research by Kilwell and Gao that says that even though women have their jobs and they have their money and they have their property, they still want men who can provide to them, men who earn more than them. So the money that they're earning is for themselves. They don't want to provide for their families. They still look for the man to be the provider, which is a contradiction and is not what feminism has been talking about. Nowadays, social media has globalized the sexual marketplace. Women get validation, free validation from men all over the place. And they have a lot of plan B men and men who are on the friend zone. The same does not obtain for men. You cannot get sex from the social media. You have to actually physically plan a date, get a room, buy this woman some food and drinks, maybe facilitate transport, and so on and so forth. So social media and the global sexual marketplace actually favors women more than men. In the past, when a woman was married to you, she was loyal to you. Today, the modern woman, if she gets married to you, her loyalty is contingent on you making her happy. Okay? Many times, they will erect emotional bureaucracies for men. That means that, for example, if you want this woman to provide to you sex and the femininity and the beauty that you want, and maybe children, then they tell you, oh, you need to take me to Dubai, you need to treat me nicely, I need a monthly allowance, you need to give me money for this and for that and so on. So men are taken through this emotional bureaucracy. In the past, it was not necessary. So long as you are married, she's your wife. And even the Bible tells you that you become the property of each other, or she becomes your property. Her body is yours, you can have sex anytime. Nowadays, there's an emotional bureaucracy that you're taken through. So the traditional woman was bound by loyalty, shame, by law, by tradition, and so on, and family honor. But the modern woman is bound by nothing, completely nothing. The law actually frees her from all sorts of obligations. She does not need to do anything. In fact, most of the times for people who are going through family courts or divorce courts, for you to be given paternity over your children, the woman must be a proven nutcase, maybe a drunkard or someone who really totally has a torrid behavior. Otherwise, if she's just a normal woman, everything is given to her on a free plate. Now, what is the invisible burden that marriage, the modern marriage, has on modern men? Because one of the things that people know is that we've looked at several cases of men who, in their twilight years after retirement, they end up alone. In fact, what we normally say is that most men who die after their retirement, the thing that kills men the most is actually starvation. Men become so dependent on their wives for creature comforts that so many men don't even know how to cook and take care of themselves. So you'll find that in the absence of a woman, these men actually don't know how to take care of themselves. But at the same time, many women leave their husbands and transfer the burden of provisioning to their women, to their children, sorry. So they play a long-term game, okay? We're going to look at weaponized incompetence in a short while, how that puts men in trouble with the children. So statistics indicate that 15 to 20% of married couples are in sexless marriages. A sexless marriage basically is a marriage where a couple has sex less than 10 times in a year. So 15 to 20% of people are in sexless marriages. Most of the times, and I've talked about this one before, these are men who don't know, they don't have a strong sense of their identity. So they have lost all their room for maneuvering. And this point, I want to quote Rollo Tomassi. Rollo Tomassi normally says, Rollo Tomassi is the author of Rational Male. Many people refer to him as the godfather of the red pill. Rollo Tomassi says, a truly powerful man jealously guards his most precious resources. Okay? His independence and his ability to maneuver. In other words, his options and ability to exercise them. Many men in the course of marriage, they give away their ability to maneuver. They give away all their resources to their wives and children, and they have no way of maneuvering through life. So that you find that even though their marriages are sexless, they're putting up with a lot of disrespect. They have no room for maneuvering. So if you're watching this video, one of the things you must do as a man, you must always have room for maneuvering, because things may go south. We've already said that divorce happens 40 to 50% of the time in most marriages. And it is women who file these divorces, okay? 70% to 80% of the time. So as a man, it will be wrong for you to think that if you spend all your resources on your family, you'll still turn out okay. It does not happen like that. Many men end up alone for various reasons or divorced. If you don't keep your options open and leave yourself room for maneuvering, that is very, very irresponsible for you as a man to do. So many men enter marriage with outdated assumptions. This is happening even today. And of course, part of the reasons why men do this is because of the church propagating the old traditional ideas of marriage and not equipping men with the knowledge that they require to navigate modern marriage. Okay? The men will think that if you provide and protect for your woman, if you provide and protect your woman and be loyal to her, she will also stay loyal. It does not work like that. Okay? That script no longer works, because a woman is free to divorce you anytime if she feels unhappy. The woman is free to pursue our options. Remember, they have the options through social media, through the workplace, because the workplace exposes them to other men who are more competent than you probably, and men who are interested in them. Okay, we have a simp economy right now where men don't mind marrying women who are whose fertility is gone and who probably cannot give them the same values that they were getting from the traditional woman. Okay. Statistics also indicate that men still provide 90% of the resources in marriage, yet there is no guaranteed return on investment. In fact, most men are getting negative returns on investment for reasons I've already mentioned. You're marrying a woman who is not a virgin, there's no guarantee for paternity, you're getting cuckolded, you're getting divorced, you're getting disrespect, you're getting challenged, your authorities are going to be challenged. So you're providing, traditionally you're providing 90% because you are the one in authority. But nowadays, you're getting 90% of responsibility, but the authority is even less than 50%. It doesn't make sense, okay? There is also what we call weaponizing competence, where, and many men who are watching this, maybe Gen X and previous generations, many mothers were disciplinarians. But nowadays, you find in many cases, many women, they have weaponized this incompetence of disciplining, where you as a man, you're told you need to discipline the children. In many cases, you're actually being set up so that the kids can hate you. And that's why many men, I've seen so many men complaining that they did everything for their children. And when the kids grew up and they went to school, they no longer talk to them, they abandon them, and they only take care of the mother. It is because of this weaponizing competence where the kids are being set up against you. Many mothers were disciplinarians in the past, but nowadays women are playing like a long con game, and this, they tell you they cannot discipline the kids. You're told to take care of the finances. Many women are working nowadays, but you find it's the men who are covering the kids' education policies, the insurance, and so on and so forth, while the women will be spending their money on spas and chamas and things like that, and girls trips. So you need to take care of that. If your woman is giving you the weaponized incompetence, you need to open your eyes. Okay? Nowadays, emotional labor flows one way. It is men who are being told you need to listen to your wife, you need to take her out, you need to entertain her, okay, and things like that. But the things that women are being told to do for their men is actually non-existent. There's nobody who is doing that right now, okay? So when a man expresses his needs, he's told to man up. You need to abandon those needs, take care of your family, you need to man up, okay? Studies by Wilcox in 2022 show that married men's happiness have actually declined, while women's expectations continue to rise. Recently, I was watching a video in Dialogues with Jagero from a lady called Roberta. She has gone to OnlyFans, and she was saying that many men nowadays are not able to make women happy, and they need to do more, take care of a woman, give her money and things like that. Like, providing and provisioning is no longer enough. You need to also be an entertainer. Take her on holidays, make sure that she's massaged, give her foot massage, listen to her, what we call emotional tampon. She can talk about her frustrations with her boss. You have to listen to that even if it doesn't make sense to you, and so on. So this emotional burden has actually increased men's unhappiness, within married men's unhappiness. So men are feeling very discontented. Remember, post-divorce, we said men still carry the burdens of the marriage, but women don't. And men feel that they're being put through a lot of emotional bureaucracy. This, of course, is contributing to the sexless marriages. The women tell you that you need to listen to her. If she comes and starts complaining about her boss and you fall asleep in the middle of endless talk, you're going to be denied sex. If your birthday comes and you don't make a big show of it, you don't take her to an expensive restaurant or buy an expensive gift, you're going to be denied sex. going to be given the cold treatment. This emotional bureaucracies that women put men through has become the norm. Okay? The challenges are actually arising from certain problems that are integral with modern marriages and relationships. The first one, of course, is hypergamy. We know about hypergamy. Women marrying up and across social sexual hierarchies. Okay? They want men who are more competent, men who are strong, and so on and so forth. But the problem with hypergamy is this. Hypergamy itself is not a bad thing. The problem with hypergamy is this hypergamy being pursued, okay? Women pursuing the hypergamy imperatives within marriage. So if a man becomes stagnant in his career, the woman divorces him. Or if he loses his job, the woman divorces him. So this is very, very aggressive form of hypergamy. In the past, women were still hypergamous, but the hypergamy ended once you got married. You settled. It was a covenant. That's why it was called a covenant. Nowadays, it's a contract, short-term contract, okay? Men have become very expendable. Men have always been expendable, but now the expendability has increased, and it's even in marriage. Social media. Women have a constant stream of attention from social media, and this devalues their men in those particular marriages. So men are told that if you don't give her what she wants, you're going to lose her. But in reality, it's just because she has options. You cannot compete with a woman's options. Actually, we normally tell men our options don't care. Okay? I mean, our options don't matter. If you concern yourself with a woman's options, you basically are putting yourself in a losing race, because there will always be better men than yourselves that she can find on social media. Okay? And also the other thing, of course, is the divorce, the filing bias. Women tend to file for divorce more than men. Your commitment does not guarantee a commitment. Many women, actually, you'll find that a woman is getting 80% of what she wants in a marriage, but she is going to divorce you to look for the other 20% outside there. Okay? And we have so many examples: Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Tiger Woods, Will Smith, and so on. All these are people who paid very heavy prices in a system that did not favor them, but it favored the exit of these women. I wrote a whole book about why modern women find divorce very rewarding. Okay? So that's very, very important to remember. Now, what can men do? The first thing is that you can never beat women in victimhood Olympics. Women will always claim that they are suffering more. Even right now, there are women who say that marriage is a scam. But when you look at most marriages, particularly in Africa, I don't know about the West, in any marriage, do an audit today. If you are a married man, ask yourself, between your in-laws, that means people from her side, and her in-laws, people from her side, who has benefited the most? In most cases, you will find, other than the man giving the bride price through the ratio and so on and so forth, it is normally most of the men who are paying school fees for our siblings or relatives. It is most of the men who are helping their parents, but the reverse often does not happen. Okay? So the first thing is, you have to maintain that, you have to realize that you cannot control women. You cannot control marriage laws. You cannot control culture. Okay? The only thing you can control as a man is your orientation, your knowledge, your resources, and your power. Okay? The first thing, you must make sure that the woman you marry has genuine burning desire for you. You're not marrying an economic refugee, or you're not marrying someone who is going to get into a transactional union with you. Your mission must come first. Okay? A man without purpose is a man without respect. We normally say a man without mission is a man without meaning. The first thing is, you must have a mission. Never make a woman your mission. Okay? Your mission must be your mission. Your woman is your woman. The two are not the same. The woman should be a complement to your mission or to your purpose, not to be the focus of it. The second thing is, frame is non-negotiable. You must establish a strong masculine frame and do not live in a woman's frame. Okay? If you hold your frame, you win, and you lead. If you enter a frame, you lose. That's how it works. Remember also that marriage is a risk contract. We know statistically that 40 to 50% of marriages fail. Those who get into second marriages, it jumps from 50% to 75%. Okay? So you have to enter marriage with your eyes open. It's a very, very risky contract. You need to consider prenuptial agreements. You need to consider alternatives. As men, you need to develop a worldview, how you view the world. You don't have to inherit everything that you found in place in the human society. Come up with models for long-term relationships that don't involve marriage, co-parenting models, and so on and so forth. Fourth thing, solve your reproductive problem strategically. Men have what we call a reproductive problem. Maybe you want children or you want intimacy. Okay? This is something that is wired in us. Biology compels us to want to have a partner, to have regular sex and things like that. So you have to be very disciplined. Choose a partner very, very carefully. Vet the woman very thoroughly. Remember, the woman is interested in your future, but you must be interested in her past. If she was raised by a single mother, if she's had several boyfriends, if she has a huge social media following, she has tattoos, she's a feminist, things like that. There are so many red flags. I think I have 37 red flags in Unplugged 2. Look for the red flags, and remember, red flags never become green flags. Okay? So if you are getting married, marry a woman with proven loyalty and a good family orientation. Don't marry some scallywag or slay queen or social media socialite. You're going to have a very destabilized situation. Women who are drunk on attention and social media validation also don't make very good partners. And then lastly, you need to build wealth, status, and brotherhood. Your focus above ground is to maximize your potential. That is what all men are supposed to do. We are meant to be builders. Make sure that you protect your resources, build your wealth, build your frame, and be part of a brotherhood. Lone wolves get killed. Be part of a brotherhood that can hold you accountable, that can give you an outlet to share your ideas, your feelings, your thoughts, and what you're going through. Networks also matter. Remember, you need to build your own networks. They will provide you with opportunities. They'll provide you with guidance. A man alone is very, very vulnerable, okay? But a man within a community is a fortified man. So, in summary, we need to accept that the institution that we found our fathers in, that institution is gone, and it is gone forever. The men who still think that marriage is the traditional institution that it used to be, these are the men who end up in trouble. They end up depressed, they commit suicide, they commit homicide, and so on. So you need to enter marriage with your eyes open. The covenant has decayed. Now it is no longer a covenant, it is a court contract, and it is a short-term contract. And the problem with this contract is that the laws are stacked against you, the man. Okay? When you enter marriage, you are entering it as 3 people. And the 2 people are against you. The 2 people here is the woman and the government. And you are the one who is on the other side. Okay? And then remember, the government has monopoly over violence. So you cannot, we normally say you can't out-alpha the government. So if you're entering a marriage, you need to be very, very aware of this. The women of today are not the women of yesterday. I've already told you. Weakness is not an option. You have to be very, very strong. Withdrawal is also not an option. You must solve your reproductive problem. You cannot retreat from the sexual marketplace the way MGTOW guys do. MGTOW means men going their own way. You cannot become a recluse and start jacking off to porn or inflatable dolls. You must play the game. You must compete with other men. So the battlefield is for men who are strong. Build your frame, build your mission, and build your brotherhoods. And then, and only then, can you invite a woman into your life. So make sure you have already built your frame, then you invite a woman. So as men, we have to reclaim our sovereignty. We must solve our reproductive problem with clarity, not with fantasy. Rid yourself of all illusions, of all fantasies, and you enter marriages with your eyes open and with your frame intact and with your mission unyielding. And I'll see you guys on the next one.